Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Tenian. Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Kind of a clunky title, I gotta admit. This is a follow-up to Godzilla vs. Kong. It's part of the legendary MonsterVerse series of movies. The director Adam Wingard, who helmed Godzilla vs. Kong, returns to direct this one. And it picks up right where the last one left off, with Kong journeying into the Hollow Earth, this undiscovered world, or now discovered world within the Earth, inhabited by the Mutos, which stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organisms. And meanwhile, Godzilla remains on the Earth's surface, and in that way avoids another cataclysmic confrontation with Kong that could jeopardize humanity. If you were a fan of Godzilla vs. Kong and liked how that movie put the monsters front and center of the story, then you'll probably appreciate the sequel, which really dials up the kaiju monster mayhem in a big way. Personally, I was always a bit lukewarm on Godzilla vs. Kong and always have preferred the more grounded approach of the 2014 Godzilla and also Kong Skull Island, despite some of their flaws. But there is fun to be had in a big monster visual spectacle like this, and I like how it gleefully indulges in its ludicrous plot contrivances. And there's actually a couple of plot contrivances in this movie that had me like laughing out loud in the theater. There's one involving Kong's arc, which I'm not going to spoil, but it was just so ridiculous and played out like a cartoon in the best possible way. And I was like, oh man, that is so goofy and silly. And I kind of am loving this. Like a lot of big blockbusters, this movie suffers from an overuse of CGI and green screen. And if you know me and my channel, you'll know that I'm a big proponent of practical effects. I always like there to be a physical element to the effect, and at times this movie just felt like an empty spectacle and disposable, and I think maybe that's the tone they were going for, just to have it play out like a fun disposable 80s cartoon and maintain that kind of absurd cartoon style. But personally, just to bring me into the world and engage with the monsters and the monster fights, I like to have a little more of a visceral reaction to it and have it have more of an impact on me than they actually did. That said, I thought the monster designs themselves were very well done. Kong looks great, and Godzilla looks amazing in this movie. A great redesign of the character. I love how he has a more athletic, muscular build. He just looks tougher and more intimidating, and just has more ability and more agility in this movie. And it works for what they do with Godzilla in this film. He has some pretty crazy action sequences, which of course I'm not going to spoil, but I mean, you've probably seen enough from the trailers to know how silly this movie's going to get. But I think in the past 2 decades, we've gotten some really great redesigns of the Godzilla character, starting with the 2014 Godzilla, and then he had Shin Godzilla, and of course Godzilla Minus One, which knocked it out of the park. And now this movie, which really has given one of my favorite Godzilla redesigns. I think this looks great. This movie does not care about its human characters at all. They are pretty useless, flat, emotionally vapid, and play no significant role other than as vehicles of exposition. And there are quite a few clunky info dumps that happen in the movie, primarily through the character of Rebecca Hall's character, who is given the thankless job of doing a lot of the exposition. And I've never thought Rebecca Hall was that great in these movies, and her dynamic relationship with her adopted daughter, Gia, just falls emotionally flat as well. And I think that's one of the missteps this sequel makes, is in trying to inject some emotional drama into certain scenes with the human characters that are just at odds with the overall goofy, cartoonish tone of the movie. And I think it should have just like stuck with its campy tone and not tried to have any emotional kind of weight to it, because it feels a little condescending and insulting to the audience's intelligence, because we know what this movie is about. You don't need to sell us on any human drama. Just don't worry about that. Just move on with the monster action and the spectacle, and we'll be fine with just that. On the one hand, I like how this movie puts the focus on the monster characters because they are much more interesting than the boring human characters. But on the other hand, I do think that by having everything from the perspective of the creatures, as a result, this film does lack a sense of visual scale and perspective, and I never got a sense of the scale or the enormity of the creatures in many of the scenes. And I think if the film had introduced a human perspective and engaged you more at a human level, it would have given a sense of scale and size to the creatures as well, and I would have had more of a visceral impact to the monster scenes as a whole. And so I thought that was another lack, and I thought that was a missing component that would have really made me have more of a visceral reaction to the film overall. In the end, I think this is a fun monster beat 'em up extravaganza, which definitely harkens back to those campy Godzilla films of the late 60s and 70s. It's definitely appealing more to a kid family audience. And I like how it gleefully indulges in its cartoonishness and ridiculousness. And the film knows what it's about and knows we're here to see the monsters fight and that the plot and characters are meaningless and they're just props to set up the monster battles, and it's very aware of that. And so I appreciate those elements. I think, as I've said, the movie is held back by feeling disposable and feeling often like an empty spectacle where even the effects didn't have much weight or visceral impact on me. They just played out like a video game. Unless you're a big Godzilla or a kaiju film fan, I don't think you need to rush out to the theater to see this one. You can definitely wait until it's available to rent or stream. It's a breezy watch, and it's something that I'll probably only watch once, and I had the same reaction to it as I did to Godzilla vs. Kong, that, yeah, that was a fun time. I didn't hate watching it, but I'll probably never watch it again. So that's my review of Godzilla x Kong, the new Empire. Let me know what you think. Do you like Godzilla? Are you a kaiju film fan? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And also remember to subscribe and like the video, and I'll look forward to bringing you more content soon here.